This last spring, I co-directed a spring break project in outreach during spring break for college students down in Panama City Beach, Florida. One of the students on that project was a guy named Jordan. Jordan had struggled with being a little bit judgmental toward people farther from God. But one night he met a girl named Carla that was in the hot tub at our hotel, and she was drunk, she was partying, and in the course of that evening, she looked at him and she said, "I'll bet you're judging me, aren't you?" And he actually looked at her and said, "No, actually I'm not." And for the first time, he said he really felt God's love flowing out of him toward this person who was partying, drinking, and wasting away her life. Well, a week after returning back from this trip, Jordan was sharing that story on his college campus in Kentucky. And one of his longtime friends overheard him telling that story, and he said, "You know what, I'm a lot like Carla." And this guy, Dan, began to explore issues of faith with Jordan. And the more they talked a little bit more, then Dan finally said, "You know what, I think I want to know more about this." And so Dan ended up getting in a relationship and looking at Jesus with his friend John. He began looking at his relationship here with, looking at Jesus with his friend Jordan. And in the process of this whole thing, they brought in their staff worker, and Jess ended up sitting there and sharing with them about Jesus. As he shared the good news of Jesus with this guy, then suddenly he said, "You know, I think that's what I want to do. I want to begin to follow Jesus Christ." And Jess actually started trying to talk him out of it, just to make sure he knew about the cost. And he said, "No, that's really what I want." Now back up the story just a little bit, and what happened was a year earlier, the staff worker Jess had a conversation with this guy named Dan, who said, "I'm okay. I don't really care at all about spiritual things right now. I'm okay." And so they parted ways, but Jess began to pray for this guy Dan. And he said, "I pray that God would give him spiritual hunger and arouse in him spiritual hunger." Now, a year later, he was hearing Dan express how that over the last 6 months, 9 months, he had begun reflecting on his life, had really an answer to prayer of seeing hunger stir up in him as he realized, "I'm not a good person. I've made bad choices. I need someone to help me that really loves me more than anything I've experienced in my life." And so because of the prayers of Jess for Dan, because of the caring relationship that Dan had with Jordan, he was able to hear the good news of Jesus, and that day he decided to make his commitment to following Christ. And not only that, but then he said, "Now where can I begin to grow?" And he got involved in a Bible study and began studying scripture with these guys right there on campus. So there's a life of someone who went from a year ago being far from God and now is beginning to follow Jesus on a very regular basis.